My family is in the worst mess. Brooke doesn't talk to us. She cut me out. I haven't talked to her for 7 years. She had twins. She didn't tell us. She had a huge fight with Terry.
That Hulk Hogan's wife, explaining how their messy family drove her daughter Brooke away. Now that Hulk is dead, Brooke Hogan is prepared to go all out.
This is the repercussions of what's happening.
She's now testifying about dark family secrets, even requesting removal from his will. Let's break it all down. A daughter's truth. Brooke Hogan chose to break her years-long silence about the abuse and manipulation that had defined her childhood and ultimately led to her decision to cut all contact with both of her parents. The most devastating of these revelations came on March 28, 2025, in response to a tearful video her mother Linda had posted just 2 days earlier. Linda's video was a desperate attempt to paint herself as the victim, lamenting that
It's been 15 or longer years since I got left Hulk Hogan, and my family is in the worst mess. Brooke doesn't talk to us. She cut me out. I haven't talked to her for 7 years, almost 8 years.
But Linda's public breakdown would backfire spectacularly, prompting Brooke to finally tell her side of the story in a series of Instagram posts that would shake the wrestling world to its core. Brooke's response to her mother's public breakdown was swift and devastating. In a detailed 7-slide Instagram carousel, she laid bare the truth about her childhood that no reality TV camera had ever captured. Her statement detailed lifelong abuse without naming perpetrators directly, but implying both parents. The key revelations were more shocking than any scripted wrestling storyline could ever be. "I have been extremely verbally and mentally abused since childhood," Brooke wrote, her words carrying the weight of years of suppressed trauma. Sadly, it would frequently turn physical, and shockingly, it was not always from the person you would assume. This last statement was particularly revealing. While many might have assumed that any physical abuse came from Hulk, Brooke was suggesting that her mother Linda was actually the primary perpetrator. But the abuse wasn't just physical. Brooke described a systematic campaign of psychological warfare that had been waged against her since she was a child. "I have received berating and vile text messages, verbal, public reamings, with unbelievably hurtful words said to me that cannot be forgotten until I was an adult." She revealed how she had been manipulated into defending her parents' poor behavior publicly, only to discover later that she had been misinformed, manipulated, and lied to. Perhaps most heartbreaking was Brooke's revelation about how she had been used as a pawn in her parents' toxic relationship. "I've been used as a pawn, a buffer, and been treated like I'm downright stupid too. No child or human should experience this treatment. It caused my life to crumble." The woman who had grown up in the spotlight, surrounded by the trappings of celebrity and wealth, was revealing that behind closed doors, she had been living in a nightmare. But Brooke's most powerful statement came at the end of her post, where she declared her independence from the cycle of abuse that had defined her family for generations. "I have been to therapy. I am doing the work. I am breaking the chain. It ends with me." This wasn't just a statement of defiance. It was a promise to her own children that they would never experience what she had endured. But the most shocking decision Brooke made was one that demonstrated just how serious she was about breaking free from her family's dysfunction. In 2023, she made the extraordinary choice to request removal from Hulk's will to avoid legal battles or exploitation. This meant that when Hulk died, leaving behind an estimated $25 million estate, Brooke would inherit nothing. This wasn't a decision made in anger. It was a preemptive strike against the kind of family fighting that she had witnessed throughout her childhood. By removing any financial incentive for contact, she was ensuring that any future relationship with her family would have to be based on genuine love and respect, not obligation or greed. The decision to opt out of the inheritance was particularly significant because it demonstrated that Brooke's commitment to breaking the cycle extended beyond just protecting her children. She was also protecting herself from being drawn back into the family drama that had defined so much of her life. Despite growing up in a family where money and fame seemed to be the primary currencies of value, she had chosen to prioritize her emotional well-being over financial gain. The timing of these revelations wasn't coincidental. Just 2 months earlier, in January 2025, Brooke had given birth to twins, Oliver Andrew and Molly Jean, with her husband Stephen Alexi. The twins were born on January 15, 2025, but neither Hulk nor Linda knew about their existence until Brooke announced their birth on social media. The fact that she had named her daughter Molly Jean, incorporating Hulk's middle name Jean, made her decision to keep the birth secret even more poignant. It showed that despite everything, there was still love there, but not enough to overcome the trauma and toxicity that had defined their relationship. When Brooke posted her cryptic response to Linda's breakdown, she shared a powerful message.
This is the repercussions of what's happened.
This simple statement encapsulated years of manipulation and emotional abuse, showing that Brooke had finally found the strength to refuse to accept responsibility for her parents' choices and their consequences. The responses to Brooke's revelations were immediate and polarizing. Linda fired back on Facebook, calling Brooke a narcissist just like her dad, and claiming she had only spanked Brooke once. Linda's response revealed the depth of the family's dysfunction, as she seemed incapable of acknowledging any responsibility for her daughter's pain. Meanwhile, Hulk remained largely silent about the allegations, choosing instead to post a bizarre video with his new wife Sky Daily, where they ate popcorn and laughed off the ugly family feud. His dismissive attitude only reinforced Brooke's decision to distance herself from both parents. Brooke's husband Steven also entered the fray, defending his wife and revealing additional details about the family's dysfunction. He disclosed that when they had wanted Hulk to walk Brooke down the aisle at their 2022 wedding, Hulk had refused, saying, "I don't do weddings anymore." This revelation painted a picture of a man who had essentially written off his own daughter, despite her attempts to maintain some form of relationship. But perhaps the most revealing aspect of Brooke's statements was what they said about the reality TV show that had made the family famous. Hogan Knows Best had presented the Hogans as the ideal American family, wealthy, successful, and loving. Hulk was portrayed as the ultimate protective father, especially when it came to Brooke's dating life and career aspirations.
You guys!
Come here, let's practice, okay?
No.
Play the piano with me, Brooke, and come on.
You guys are like little kids.
The show's most memorable moments often centered around Hulk's comedic attempts to scare off potential boyfriends and his pride in Brooke's musical achievements. Now, years later, Brooke was revealing that this image was nothing more than a carefully constructed facade. The protective father was actually part of an abusive dynamic that had left lasting scars on his daughter's psyche. The tight-knit family was actually a toxic environment where a child was used as a weapon in her parents' battles against each other. The contrast between the public image and the private reality was so stark that it raised questions about everything the public thought they knew about the Hogan family. How much of what viewers had seen on Hogan Knows Best was real? How much was scripted or edited to present a false narrative? And how had the producers and network failed to recognize or address what was apparently happening behind the scenes? That family bond was broken several years later when it was revealed Hulk had an affair.
We had so much together, but that's the key. We had so much together, and all of that's just been shot down, and, you know, a lot of water under the bridge there.
This revelation about Brooke being caught in the middle of her parents' divorce provided crucial context for understanding how she had been used as a pawn throughout her childhood and adolescence. The pattern of manipulation and emotional abuse had been established long before the public became aware of the family's problems. To truly understand the depth of Brooke Hogan's shocking revelations and her decision to break away from her family, we need to examine the series of devastating scandals that destroyed the Hogan family's public image and created the toxic environment that Brooke described in her Instagram posts. These weren't just tabloid headlines, they were life-altering events that exposed the dark reality behind wrestling's most famous family. The scandals that shattered a family. The most damaging scandal erupted in July 2015, when leaked audio from a 2007 tape revealed Hogan using racial slurs while discussing his daughter Brooke's relationship with a black man. The transcript, published by the National Enquirer, captured Hogan repeatedly using the N-word and making deeply disturbing comments about his daughter's dating life. The specific quotes were shocking. The fallout was immediate and devastating. WWE swiftly terminated Hogan's contract, removed him from their Hall of Fame, and erased his presence from their website and programming. The organization that had built much of its 1980s success around Hogan's character issued a statement affirming their commitment to diversity and inclusion, effectively ending a relationship that had spanned decades. But what made this scandal even more heartbreaking was Brooke's initial response. Despite being the target of her father's racist rants, she publicly defended him.
He's an easy target. This is what this business is all about, and we know that.
Looking back at Brooke's defense with the knowledge we now have about the abuse she suffered, her statements take on a much darker meaning. Her willingness to excuse her father's racist language and minimize its impact wasn't necessarily born out of genuine belief in his character, but rather out of the complex dynamics of abuse and manipulation that had defined their relationship since childhood. The racist remarks weren't an isolated incident. Additional racially insensitive comments surfaced from 2008 jailhouse phone calls between Hogan Hogan and his son Nick, who was serving time for a car crash that left a friend permanently disabled. In these calls, Hogan used the N-word and made stereotypical remarks about black people, further compounding the controversy and showing a pattern of racist attitudes rather than a single moment of poor judgment. Hogan's attempts at damage control only made things worse. In an exclusive interview with ABC News, he tried to explain his comments by claiming he was suicidal at the time.
Out of everything that I've been through, this one hit me probably the hardest, and that's a heck of a thing to say, because I've been through a lot of crazy stuff.
He continued,
I was at the lowest point of my life. My personal life was destroyed. I was very mad at my daughter. I was upset over a situation that happened between her and her boyfriend, and I had no idea I was being taped. I was to the point where I wanted to kill myself. I sat in my bathroom by myself when my ex-wife was gone and the kids were gone, and I was completely broken and destroyed, and I said, what's the easiest way out of this? I mean, I was lost.
You were suicidal?
Yes, I was.
But even in his apology, Hogan revealed disturbing details about his relationship with Brooke. He admitted that.
She was the direction of my attack. You know, I was not so mad at her boyfriend, I was mad at her, you know, and she instantly said, I don't even need to forgive you because I'm not mad at you. I love you, you're my dad.
This admission was particularly chilling. Hogan was essentially confessing that his racist rants weren't really about his daughter's boyfriend, but about his anger toward Brooke herself. The racism scandal was directly connected to an even more sordid chapter in the Hogan family saga, the sex tape scandal that had been brewing since 2012. The racist remarks were part of a 2007 sex tape involving Hogan and Heather Clem, the wife of radio host Bubba the Love Sponge, recorded without Hogan's knowledge. When Gawker Media published portions of this tape in 2012, it sparked a landmark lawsuit that would ultimately bankrupt the media company. Hogan sued Gawker for $100 million, alleging invasion of privacy, infringement of personality rights, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. In 2016, a jury found Gawker liable, awarding Hogan $115 million in compensatory damages and $25 million in punitive damages. The case was later settled for $31 million, but not before forcing Gawker into bankruptcy and shutting down the site entirely. But the most shocking revelation about this lawsuit came later, when it was discovered that tech billionaire Peter Thiel had secretly funded Hogan's legal battle, motivated by a personal vendetta against Gawker for outing him as gay in 2007. This added another layer of manipulation and hidden agendas to an already complex situation. The Hogan family's problems weren't limited to racism and sex tapes. The family had been dealing with serious legal issues for years, dating back to 2007 when Brooke's brother Nick was involved in a devastating car crash. 17-year-old Nick crashed his Toyota Supra while street racing under the influence, leaving passenger John Graziano with permanent brain damage. Nick was sentenced to 8 months in jail, but the real damage was to the family's reputation and internal dynamics. The financial strain of these various scandals and legal battles was enormous. Hulk's 2009 divorce from Linda was particularly brutal, with Linda receiving a significant portion of their assets and Hulk claiming the settlement nearly bankrupted him. The divorce was marked by bitter accusations, with Linda claiming Hulk had multiple affairs, including with Brooke's friend Christiane Plant. But perhaps the most revealing scandal wasn't about Hulk's public behavior, but about his private conduct within the family. Hogan had a history of making questionable statements and engaging in behavior that many found inappropriate. In 2013, he posted a photo on Twitter of himself applying lotion to adult Brooke's legs, which many critics labeled as creepy. While this incident was relatively minor compared to his other scandals, it fit into a pattern of boundary issues that would later be reflected in Brooke's allegations of abuse. There were also persistent rumors and allegations about Hogan's steroid use throughout his wrestling career. In 1994, during Vince McMahon's federal steroid trial, Hogan admitted to using anabolic steroids for 14 years, contradicting his earlier denials on the Arsenio Hall show. This admission damaged his credibility and his image as a wholesome role model for his young fans. The cumulative effect of these scandals was devastating for the Hogan family. Each revelation chipped away at their public image and created more stress and dysfunction within the household. For Brooke, who was trying to build her own career in music and entertainment, being constantly associated with her father's controversies became an increasingly heavy burden. His characterization of his racist rants as merely a glitch, and his insistence that people who knew him would know he wasn't racist, showed a fundamental inability to understand the gravity of his actions and their impact on his family, particularly on Brooke, who had been the target of his anger. These scandals didn't just damage Hulk Hogan's reputation, they created the toxic environment that of Brooke would later describe in her shocking Instagram revelations. The constant media attention, legal battles, financial stress, and family dysfunction all contributed to the abusive dynamic that ultimately drove Brooke to cut all contact with her parents and focus on breaking the cycle for her own children. Up next, we break down how the most shocking message of all came not in March 2025, but in July, just days after Hulk Hogan's death on July 24, 2025. As the wrestling world mourned the loss of their hero, Brooke Hogan was preparing to deliver her most powerful and final statement about her relationship with her father. Breaking the cycle, a legacy of healing. On July 29, 2025, Brooke broke her silence with an emotional Instagram post that addressed the rift while paying tribute to her father. The timing was significant. She had learned of her father's death not through a tearful phone call or family gathering, but through a text message from her brother Nick to her husband Steven. This detail alone spoke volumes about just how complete the estrangement had become. But Brooke's final message about her father was far more complex than simple anger or resentment. When he left this earth, it felt like part of my spirit left with him, she wrote, revealing the complicated nature of loving someone who had caused you tremendous pain. She emphasized that there had been no big fight with Hulk, but rather an emotional disconnect in his final years. It was like there was a force field around him that I couldn't get through, she explained. This metaphor of a force field was particularly poignant because it captured something that many children of difficult parents understand: the way that dysfunction can create invisible barriers that make genuine connection impossible, even when love still exists. Brooke wasn't describing hatred or vindictiveness, but rather the heartbreaking reality of watching someone you love become increasingly unreachable. The post also revealed that Brooke and Hulk's last conversation had taken place in September 2023, nearly 2 years before his death. During this phone call, Brooke had expressed deep love and concern for her father's health, urging him to slow down and enjoy life. This conversation had provided Brooke with a sense of closure, allowing her to express her feelings even as she maintained the boundaries necessary for her own well-being. But perhaps the most revealing aspect of Brooke's final message was what it revealed about the steps she had taken to protect her own family. The decision to keep her marriage and the birth of her twins secret from her parents wasn't born out of spite, but out of a desperate need to break the cycle of dysfunction that had defined her childhood. She had stepped away to protect her heart and her new family. The lengths to which Brooke had gone to create this protection were extraordinary. Her marriage to Stephen Oleksy in June 2022 had been a completely private affair, just the two of them, with no family or friends present. Only the couple attended. No family or friends were present. They later celebrated with Stephen's family in Michigan in December 2023, but neither Hulk nor Linda were ever included in any wedding festivities. Even more significantly, Brooke had kept her entire pregnancy secret. When she gave birth to twins, Oliver Andrew and Molly Jean, on January 15, 2025, neither of her parents knew that their grandchildren existed. She had kept her pregnancy hidden with no prior public hints. The first time Linda learned about the twins was when Brooke announced their birth on social media 3 days later. The symbolism in the children's names was particularly powerful. While Oliver Andrew carried no connection to the Hogan family legacy, Molly Jean's middle name directly honored Hulk's middle name. This choice revealed the complexity of Brooke's feelings. Even as she was protecting her children from the toxicity of her family, she was still acknowledging the love and connection that had once existed.
I love to just give, and I had to hold myself back.
This statement from Brooke perfectly encapsulated her journey toward healing. She had learned to set boundaries, to prioritize her own well-being, and to choose relationships that supported her growth rather than exploiting her loyalty. Brooke's decision to break the cycle wasn't just about protecting her children from potential abuse. It was about giving them something she had never had: a stable, healthy family environment. Throughout her Instagram posts, she repeatedly emphasized her commitment to breaking the chain and ensuring that it ends with me. This commitment extended beyond just keeping her children away from toxic grandparents. Brooke had been actively engaged in therapy, working to understand and heal from her childhood trauma. She had also been deliberate about creating a support system that prioritized health and healing over fame and dysfunction. Her husband Steven had been a crucial part of this process, defending her choices and providing the stability that had been lacking in her childhood. The contrast between Brooke's approach to family and her parents' approach couldn't have been more stark. While Hulk and Linda continued to engage in public feuds and blame each other for the family's problems even after Hulk's death, Brooke focused on building something positive and healing. Linda claimed Brooke wouldn't attend the funeral, but this wasn't about spite. It was about maintaining the boundaries that had allowed Brooke to build a healthy life. The public reaction to Brooke's revelations was mixed, reflecting the complicated nature of family dysfunction and abuse. Some praised her courage in speaking out and breaking the cycle, while others criticized her for airing family business publicly or questioned the timing of her revelations. But for those who understood the dynamics of abuse and the difficulty of breaking free from toxic family patterns, Brooke's actions represented something powerful and necessary. Her story also highlighted important issues about the entertainment industry and the way it can exploit family dysfunction for profit. The Hogan Knows Best reality show had presented the family's problems as comedic entertainment, never acknowledging or addressing the real pain that was occurring behind the cameras. This raised questions about the responsibility of producers and networks when dealing with families in crisis. The woman who had once been a reality TV star and aspiring pop singer had found something more valuable than money or fame peace. Her journey from the spotlight of Hogan Knows Best to the quiet privacy of her new life with Steven and their twins represented a conscious choice to prioritize healing over publicity, family well-being over celebrity status. In her final Instagram post about her father, Brooke struck a balance between honoring the man who had shaped her life and maintaining the boundaries that had allowed her to heal. "My dad's blood runs through my veins. We had a connection deeper than words, but I stepped away to protect my heart." This wasn't the statement of someone filled with hate, but rather someone who had learned the difficult lesson that love doesn't always mean staying, and that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. Her story serves as a reminder that the most important battles aren't fought on social media, but in the quiet moments when we choose to break harmful patterns and create something better for the next generation. In breaking the chain of abuse and dysfunction that had defined the Hogan family for decades, Brooke had delivered the most shocking message of all, that it's possible to choose healing over hurt, and that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. The legacy she's building for Oliver and Molly isn't one of championship belts or reality TV fame, but something far more precious, a family built on love, respect, and emotional safety. In the end, that may be the most shocking revelation of all, that the daughter of wrestling's most famous family found her greatest victory not in the ring or on camera, but in the quiet courage to say no more and mean it. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other awesome videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.